Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Wolf, and I am the programming coordinator for the Osterville Village Library. Thank you so much for joining us in person, and those on Zoom, thank you so much for being with us as well. Today, we are excited to have Anke Rudy here with us again, the veganizer.
Educator.
Oh, that's right, Vegicator.
Whatever.
Before I give Anke's introduction, if you are interested in continuing the Power of Plants, Anke has another event in April, the 2nd, I believe.
I think it's in 2 weeks, yeah.
And we also have Dr. Sid, who wrote this book, All My Secrets, which Anke proofread with him. We have him coming May 2nd for a soft launch, book signing event in the Fireside Room. And all are welcome, and the event is free as well. So without further ado, here is Anke Rudy with Veganizing Your Food, Transitioning to a Plant-Based Diet.
Thank you. Well, hello, everybody. Can I just get a quick show of hands? Who has come to any of these talks before, or is it the first time for some of you? Okay. So I will just give a little introduction myself and how this all kind of came about and why I'm doing this. So I decided to go plant-based during COVID. I watched a documentary called The Game Changers. Has anyone seen it? It's a very, very powerful documentary about plant-based athletes. And I was just very struck by this documentary, and I basically decided to try going vegan overnight because it was kind of a fun project during COVID when we were all in this weird kind of netherworld. And I never looked back. I just started reading and watching more documentaries, and I just got deeper and deeper into it. And I kind of transitioned from vegan to what we call whole food plant-based. And I always kind of take a moment just to tell people the difference between the two. So when you hear someone say they're vegan, do I need to be over here? When people talk about being vegan, it's very often an ethical choice, and they're doing it sort of more for the animals. So the whole point about veganism is really not using any animal products. It goes, as far as like not wearing leather and not eating honey and all those things. But there is a lot of vegan junk food and a lot of processed vegan food. So a lot of people who say they are vegan are not necessarily doing it for their own health. They're doing it more from an ethical standpoint for the animal's benefit. So a lot of people, when I say, oh, I'm plant-based, they say, oh, you're vegan. I say, well, I don't really like to use, I've used this word here because it's very commonly understood to be dairy-free and animal, product-free. But actually, whole food plant-based is a bit of a mouthful. So it's just easier to say veganized, but actually what we're going to be talking about today is how to make healthy switches. So, of course, you could go and buy an Impossible Burger and put some vegan cheese on it and use, vegan margarine on your bun. That wouldn't necessarily be a very healthy substitute for a burger. So there are a lot of different ways to convert to kind of more of a plant-based diet without just buying the processed vegan foods, because the concept of whole food plant-based is more that we're trying to eat as little processed food as possible. So I'm going to be talking about just healthy switches. So for example, the food I brought today, excuse me, is a bolognese, but it's made with lentils and mushrooms, which are both extremely healthy. Instead of using like a fake meat, which of course, if you're transitioning and you have never tried going plant-based before, you might want to ease yourself into kind of vegan plant-based eating using those fake meats and things. But personally, I am not a big fan, because a lot of those fake meats are loaded with chemicals and additives and preservatives and, heavily processed kind of soy extracts and isolates and all these weird things that are really not good for you. It's better for the animals because you're not eating a steak, but it's really not good for human health. And oil is one of the things that comes up over and over again. The whole food plant-based community tries to avoid oil because oil is considered a processed food, because it's really just the fat squeezed out of the olive or the seed or whatever it is. And it has, in terms of nutritional value, it's just fat. It's just kind of unnecessary calories, and it just has this effect. It kind of sludges the blood. There are videos you can watch about it if you Google, oil effect on blood flow. It kind of slows down. It's kind of almost like, when you're cooking and you clean the pan when you've used oil, it's kind of sticky. That's what it's doing to your blood. So even olive oil, we've all been told how great olive oil is for us, is actually something that we choose not to eat. And eat the olive, eat the whole food that still has the fiber and it has all the nutrients, but it's not just the oil squeezed out of it, the fat squeezed out of it. So are any of you plant-based? You are? How long have you been plant-based? Really? Not vegetarian, but actually it's like plant-based.
I went through CHIP. I had Dr. Essex done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah, I know the whole thing.
Okay, excellent. Well, I hope you'll
I was
still.
living in Southern Ohio at the time, and we had a CHIP program and a very good plant-based community.
Oh,
so,
wow. Okay.
Which is very different from
Yes. How long have you lived on the Cape?
that 10 years.
Okay. Do you know about the plant-based group on the Cape?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The Green Nosh. Okay, perfect. And you, how long have you been plant-based?
We're actually vegetarian and a little pescatarian, but no birds, no mammals is what we say. And
Okay.
very little dairy and probably 33 years.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. And you feel good and your blood works great and all the rest
Would
of it.
never back,
Yeah.
but we find that we eat a much greater variety of foods than our friends who
Right.
still eat meat. And we at first stopped with the mammals, but then we found out we were still eating chicken, and then it was like chicken.
Right.
So we stopped because we wanted more variety.
Okay.
We're big animal lovers too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a really interesting point. So a lot of people, when I tell them that I'm plant-based, they say, oh, what do you eat? They think I just eat salads and granola. But actually, since I've gone plant-based, I eat like a massive variety of food. It's really been like just a wonderful journey. Not that I love that word, but it really, the more you get into it, then, there are just so many wonderful cookbooks and websites. There is just so much variety in the plant world. I know how many tens of thousands of edible plants there are, so I get stuck in my rut and I make the same things over and over, but every now and then I'll buy a new cookbook and try some new recipes, and just beans and legumes. And the most important thing, and again, this is a big difference between the whole food plant-based community and way of eating and vegan, is that we encourage people to eat like a vast variety, like the more variety the better. You don't want to just be eating broccoli and oats every day, because all the plants have such a vast array of phytonutrients and all the different minerals, and you can get absolutely everything you need in terms of protein, carbs, vitamins and minerals from plants. The only thing you need to supplement is B12. And that is actually something that everyone should be supplementing, no matter what kind of diet you eat, because it used to come from the ground, from the soil, and even, grazing land for everything has to be supplemented, even like animals, cows and sheep, everything gets supplemented because we just don't have those nutrients in the soil anymore because of pesticides and over farming and all that stuff. So the only supplement you should be taking is B12, and everything else is recommended to get from the food you eat, and just like beans and greens is like one of my favorite little mantras, because legumes and beans have so many fabulous nutrients, iron, protein, vitamins, and leafy greens are another really, really important one. And another thing I like to kind of as an intro, excuse me, the big question is always protein. Where do you get your protein? So first of all, everything contains protein. All plants contain protein, but specifically, tofu, tempeh, beans contain plenty of protein. The other really important point is that we do not need as much protein as we think we do, as we've all been brainwashed into thinking we do. I only get 10% of my daily calories from protein. That's all I need. I get 80% from carb. I mean, ish, I don't measure it out every day, but as a general rule, humans should be getting most of their fuel from carbohydrates. And we're not talking pastries and muffins. We're talking, oats, grains, potatoes, sweet potatoes. So those, natural, plant-based carbohydrates. And then 10% of our calories from fat. So nuts, seeds, avocados, those sorts of fats. The only saturated fat in the plant kingdom is coconut, unfortunately, because it's a fun, coconut milk is really nice for cooking curries and stuff. So I eat it occasionally, but if you're watching your fat and cholesterol, you want to kind of avoid coconut. But in general, if you eat whole food plant-based diet, your blood work will just be perfect. I mean, my cholesterol has gone down 40 points in 4 years, and I'm trying to get it down another 10 points. But and the other really important thing is fiber. So protein, don't worry about getting you as long as you're eating enough calories every day, you're getting plenty of protein. The more important thing to focus on is fiber, because I think it's something like 90+% of Americans get plenty of protein every day, regardless of their diet. 97% of Americans are not getting enough fiber in their diets. And fiber is so vital for your gut health. And there's tons of new research about how important the gut biome is. It's called the second brain. I mean, it controls so many functions in the body, from your immune system to your brain. I mean, it's really important to keep your gut biome happy, and gut feeds on fiber. That's what makes it happy. So you just want to really increase your fiber. So even if you don't want to go fully plant-based and you say, well, I like my seafood and I want a little bit of salmon and this and that, you can still really improve your overall health just by adding more whole grains and vegetables and fruit into your diet. So that's kind of a good place to start. And, if you haven't been eating a lot of fiber, you'll want to kind of do that gradually, to give your body a chance to adapt. Okay, so some of the thing, when people start out, or take an interest, like you, lovely people, in becoming a little bit more plant-based, whether you want to kind of try it 100% or just start gradually, some people say, well, but I'm going to miss my lasagna, I'm going to miss my this and that, my kids love mac and cheese. There are a lot of ways that you can still eat your favorite foods, but make a plant-based version of them. So this is I thought that would be kind of a good theme today, and just like a nice way to talk about the food, because it really is all about the food. So, okay, this never works when I hit them. Is that why you were sticking around? What am I doing wrong? Oh, now the arrows work. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. So, I mean, the most kind of basic one to me, like starting out, was that I switched out my skim milk for nut milks or plant milks. So if you've been to the supermarkets lately, you will see that there has just been a massive increase in the number of non-dairy milk options available to you. So dairy is kind of a big one. If you're interested in reading, because I don't go into a lot of the science, but it might be a little boring for people. This is a really great book to start with if you haven't read How Not to Die. This is, I'm just going to hold it up here for the Zoom people. This is the book that I always recommend to people to read first, because it's very palatable. It's written, for the general public. The first few chapters are all about disease prevention, disease by disease. So there's a chapter on cancer, there's a chapter on mental, so diabetes, high blood pressure, liver disease, kidney disease. So you can kind of skim, read through whichever ones are pertinent to you. And then the second half of the book goes into all the foods and why they're so beneficial. And it's really mind-blowing. I was reading every page and wow, I knew that vegetables were good for me, but I didn't understand why. So that's a great book. But then if you're interested in digging a little deeper, this book, The China Study, which is by Colin Campbell, this really goes into tumor and cancer prevention and the studies that he did with the protein that's in dairy is called casein. And he did this extensive study about the effect of casein on cancer tumors. And literally by adding and removing the casein, you could see the tumor growth go up and down like this. I mean, that really did it for me. I actually got diagnosed with breast cancer a couple of years ago when I had already gone plant-based, and that really kind of just made me double down all my efforts, because there is so much evidence to show that not only can eating plant-based prevent tumor growth. It can actually also heal and also prevent recurrence of tumor growth ever returning. So I'm very confident that the way I'm eating is going to help prevent, recurrence of my, cancer returning. So that's a very powerful book. Anyway, yeah, so dairy is a really good one to try and at least cut back on. And a lot of people say to me, oh, I could never give up cheese. And I just say, you know what, if you read that book, you'll never want to eat cheese again. I mean, that cured me of ever wanting to eat cheese again. I don't miss it. I eat so much other delicious food that I don't miss it. But there are a couple of things like pesto. I used to love pesto. And I make my own pesto, and instead of the only non-vegan thing in pesto is the Parmesan. And there's this wonderful product called nutritional yeast. If any of you have come across it, you can buy it at Trader Joe's, you can buy it at all, Bob's Red Mill products. And nutritional yeast, it's kind of flaky, so like a little yellow in color, and it has a little bit of a nutty, cheesy flavor. So I make my pesto, I soak cashew nuts, and I throw in some nutritional yeast and loads of herbs like, basil and parsley, whatever. And I just make my own pesto, and it's delicious. And you can really taste all the fresh herbs, and the nutritional yeast is a great substitute for the Parmesan. A lot of plant-based recipes use tofu and tempeh. I don't know if anyone uses tofu. I used to kind of have an issue with tofu, and I've started, just because of the texture, sorry, I have an air fryer, and I just cut it into strips, and I just put it in the air fryer, and it pulls out all the moisture, and it makes it sort of a little firmer, a little crusty. So that's, again, you kind of learn to cook with these different ingredients when you understand how much more beneficial they are for you than the alternatives. So yeah, so it does require making some switches. What are the other big ones? I mean, butter and margarine. I mean, I do still eat bread. There are a few breads. You have to be careful with bread because a lot of the ingredients, some of them have like hundreds of ingredients. There are a few breads that we call compliant with the whole food plant-based food kind of agenda. One of them is Ezekiel bread. It's not great. I mean, it tastes a little cardboardy, but you can put hummus on it and avocado and all those yummy things. Does anyone here eat Ezekiel bread? It's fine. I mean, they make muffins. They have it sometimes in the freezer section. So that's the healthiest. Sometimes I buy Dave's Killer Bread. And there's a bakery in Maine called When Pigs Fly. They used to only have it at Whole Foods, and now I'm seeing it at Market Basket and Stop and Shop and Shaw's. And if you look at the ingredient list, there's usually 3 ingredients. So, that's another one of the things that I've just learned is to always read the ingredient list, because a lot of food. So here's the problem. The food industry is all about getting us to buy stuff, right? It's all about profit. So they'll put stuff on the front like plant-based and this and that, and you have to read the ingredients because they will add all sorts of nasty oils and sugars and all of those things that we know are bad for us. So always read the ingredient list. And a lot of people make their own bread. I do not make my own bread, but that's kind of next on my agenda. Sourdough is really good. Sourdough is a great one. Anyway, so you can still eat bread. I mean, carbs are all the rage in this way of eating, just good, whole food carbs. And you can put, so instead of butter, I put a little almond butter on my bread. So Trader Joe's have a raw almond butter. The only ingredient is almonds. There's no sugar, there's no salt added. It's wonderful. And then sometimes I make I make a cranberry kind of compote with some applesauce and cinnamon and oranges, and then I put that on as like a jam. And then I also use date syrup. Has anyone here come across date syrup? Oh my, it's amazing. So unfortunately, Trader Joe's just discontinued it, but you can buy it online. So it's 100% dates, and it's this really goopy, lovely dark syrup, and it's completely natural and completely whole food. Yes.
Let's put on your list. Are any ingredients that they recommend for children? We have a son and daughter, Harry.
Oh.
So I'm trying nice to them.
Yes.
This-
Oh,
I'm
that's,
trying to figure out, if there are certain qualifiers you wish to mention about, you know, like.
kids
very young children.
food. Yeah, so I mean, there are whole like cookbooks and websites that you can look into that's all about. I mean, I follow a bunch of people on Instagram that have little kids and they're showing what they cook for their kids every day. My kids are 18 and 16, so sadly I'm too late. I mean, I wish I had known everything I know now. Wait till I get my hands on my grandkids. But yeah, huh?
Like, pizza could be vegan.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a great one, you know, for like well, I can't eat pizza. Yes, you can definitely still eat pizza. That's a really good one. I mean, I've got a few slides coming up just to show you things that I make, but I go to Pizza Barbone on Main Street and they have vegan cheese. They have well, the only one I can eat there is it's called the Veggie, and you can get it with vegan cheese. They have a really delicious one with a pistachio pesto, but there is a little bit of cheese mixed in it, but with arugula. Oh, it's fantastic. So yes, you can make your own pizza, and kids love making pizza, and you can get a whole wheat crust, you can get a cauliflower crust, you can buy vegan cheese everywhere. And, you know, tomato sauce is vegan. And here's the other thing, like people like my dad, you know, he's 86, he's in Germany. He always is like, oh, you know, he always says vegan. He says, oh, but this, you know, where are we going to go to buy you vegan food? I said, Dad, salad is vegan, pasta is vegan, potatoes, a lot of the food that you're already eating is technically vegan, plant-based. It's just not, you know, it's not, doesn't have vegan ingredients. It's just naturally vegan, you know, any potatoes. I mean, I regularly just make sweet potatoes for dinner and I just make some beans and a big salad. And that to me is a complete meal, you know, so a lot of the things that you're already eating are technically, you know, vegan or vegetarian, but cutting out dairy is a big issue for a lot of people. So, nut butters, like margarine is not something that, is considered a whole food because it's just the oil squeezed out of, you know, there's a lot of bad oils in margarine. So yeah, that's, you know, that's difficult for some people to cut out, but again, you don't have to cut out all this stuff overnight, but just try using almond butter instead of dairy butter or margarine, or you know, avocado on your toast. You don't need butter, you know, the avocado is already rich enough. It gives it that creamy kind of nice taste. In baking, I use, I don't do a ton of baking, but if I bake, I use flaxseed. You just put a few spoons of flaxseed in a bowl and add some warm water and you let it sit for 15 minutes and it becomes kind of sticky. So that's called a flax egg, and flaxseed is so good for you. I mean, Dr. Greger, the How Not to Die guy, he recommends flaxseed for everyone every day because it has these things called lignans in them. They're magic. Just Google it. I mean, that's something you should have every day. I think it's cancer fighting. So flaxseed, applesauce. I use date syrup, maple syrup. I mean, I use very, very, very little sugar. I mean, date sugar is considered whole food, but you really kind of get used to food being less sweet if you don't use sugar a lot. Yes.
What about honey?
Well, honey is one of those things I kind of have, I'm a bit ambivalent about honey because technically it's an animal product because it's made by animals. And I think vegans who are vegan for ethical reasons, like I asked my friend Dr. Sid about this, he said, well, some people don't like honey because it's not like the bees are like coerced into making it, or we take their food from them, whatever it is. There's some kind of ethical thing. I will still eat a spoonful of honey. Like when I have a sore throat, I'll eat some local honey, which is also supposed to be good for allergies. So honey, I don't really have strong feelings about. But I think if you're really hardcore vegan for animal ethical reasons, then you avoid it. I don't have so much of a problem with it. But date syrup has become my new favorite thing. I prefer date syrup to honey anyway. I put it on my granola, I put it in my baking, I put it on my pancakes anyway. So yeah, avocado and hummus instead of mayo. So I make a potato salad and there is a lot of plant-based yogurt now, like coconut milk or almond milk, cashew milk yogurt at a lot of the mainstream supermarkets. They'll usually have one kind. Market Basket have a pretty good selection. And so I use a little bit of the cashew yogurt instead of mayonnaise. Some mustard is vegan. the lentil mushroom bolognese. There's this great thing called liquid smoke. Has anyone come across liquid smoke? So you can make mushrooms or tofu taste like bacon, because this liquid smoke has a very barbecue-y flavor, and I actually make some black beans with lots of onions and garlic and liquid smoke and mustard and vinegar and all these things, and it really tastes like barbecue beans. They taste amazing, but everything in it is completely plant-based and healthy.
What is liquid smoke made of?
Hickory, I think it is. Yeah. Isn't that, don't they use that in the South, like in New Orleans, and they use that in their coffee to roast their coffee, and it gives it that kind of smoky flavor. I think it's hickory.
No, chicory.
Chicory.
Yeah.
Chicory or hickory. Yeah, maybe it's chicory. Okay. Veggie bean burgers. So instead of buying your Impossible burgers, which are full of bad ingredients, you can make black bean burgers, lentil burgers. There are thousands of recipes all over the place for I've got some pictures coming up. Anyway, so yeah, that's just a lot of ways you can make things that, you know, you thought you would maybe miss when you went plant-based. You can just make a really delicious, healthy version of it and get really creative with it. And every time I cook, I'm always thinking, what can I add to this to make it even healthier? You know, I'll throw some kale in my bolognese, you know, I'll throw some flaxseed into my baking. You know, there's always, the more you read and learn, it just kind of becomes very instinctive, you know. Dates, date syrup, maple syrup. Okay, what do we have next? Okay, so for kids, you know, I mean, my younger kid loves mac and cheese. You can make a delicious plant-based mac and cheese using cashews. I mean, it's going to be calorific because nuts have a lot of calories, but you soak the cashew nuts and then you throw them in a blender with nutritional yeast and some veggie stock and whatever other spices, and you can make a really nice, thick, creamy, like a mac and cheese sauce. So, I mean, I made it once for my younger daughter. She didn't love it, but there are many recipes. So if you go onto Pinterest and you type in vegan mac and cheese, you'll get thousands of recipes, and then you can sort of try a couple and see which ones they like. So yeah, it does help. You do need a blender to make these sauces because it's usually all about the sauces. But that's a common one. That's popular, vegan mac and cheese. Okay, these are all veggie burgers. So they're all either with lentils or beans and onions, and, you know, and then you just load it up with, you know, nice veggies, a nice whole wheat bun. You can make a vegan mayo. I mean, you can buy vegan mayo, or you can make your own sauce. Tahini is a really good substitute for like a creamy, for a creamy sauce base. Tahini is just sesames. It's just a sesame paste. You can buy it at Trader Joe's. You can buy it in the international aisle. I think I was in Stop and Shop recently, and they had 4 or 5 different kinds of tahini. So it's really like all these ethnic foods are kind of becoming more available here on the Cape, which is wonderful. And as you kind of explore this way of eating more, you will find that a lot of international foods are your friends, because like a lot of Asian food is heavy on the veggies and the tofu. Like I love going out to eat to Thai restaurants. I get a tofu vegetable dish. I ask them to steam the tofu instead of fry it and hold the fish sauce. So it's most places you go, if they're making it fresh, like the little Bangkok kitchen in Hyannis, they make it to order, and you can tell them exactly what you do and don't want in your dish. So you can get veggie sushi. I mean, there's a lot of great international cuisines. Middle Eastern, I mean, falafel is vegan. It'll be fried, but you know, once in a while that's fine. Yes. No, I think if you look at the ingredients, there's usually something in there that's going to make them kind of stick together. Let me look up, what do they use in here? Ooh, this is barbecue pulled portobello sliders with a green goddess sauce. Those look really good. Oh, you can make cauliflower, like buffalo cauliflower. Where do the burgers go? Well, no, usually it'll be like the beans will probably give it like a little bit of like a pasty kind of consistency. No, usually you can just form it as is, just form it into a patty. There's a really nice recipe here for vegan pad thai. I mean, pad thai is pretty vegan as long as you don't add chicken or egg to it. I can't find the burgers right now. Anyway, but you know, there'll be again, like tons and tons. Oh, here. Burgers, black beans, onion, rolled oats, some spices. Oh, they add a little bit of salsa to give it a little moistness. So yeah, there's again, like there's a million different kinds and different recipes, and so easy to find, you know, online. I happen to love Pinterest, but Forks Over Knives, has anyone seen that documentary? So there's a fantastic documentary called Forks Over Knives. They have their own recipe book, but they have a phenomenal website. This was kind of, I think it was 20 years ago the documentary came out, but it still all stands true. It's a really great one to watch. A lot of the science behind it about, you know, why animal protein is bad for us, why dairy is bad for us, and so on. Their website is amazing, and every recipe on their website is completely whole food plant-based, so I never have to substitute out anything. And again, they have a great little search engine where you just type in, it literally says, what do you want to eat? So you type in pesto and all the pesto recipes pop up. You type in burger, all the burger recipes pop up. They have seasonal recipes. There's tons of information on their website. Forks Over Knives, that's a really good place to start. And then there's Jane Esselstyn, her dad pops up in the documentary. He's a heart, I think, a cardiologist. And he has, I think I thought first. Yeah, he wrote this book about how to prevent and reverse heart disease. So his daughter and his son and wife are all really active in the whole plant-based movement. And actually, we might watch, if we have time, we're going to watch a little cooking demonstration, because his wife and daughter do these really cute cooking demonstrations on YouTube. And they just make it all look it is easy, you know, but they just make it very accessible, and they're just very, very fun to watch. Okay, so this is Veggie Bolognese. So the pasta I brought today is, I think it's yellow lentil and brown rice pasta, which I got at Trader Joe's. So it's gluten-free, very few ingredients. And, you know, if you're worried about protein, you're getting plenty of protein from the lentils and the brown rice. So yeah, again, I mean, there's lots of new pasta types popping up all over the place in all the regular supermarkets. Lentil pasta, quinoa pasta, you know, lentil, everything. So for those who are gluten-free, I mean, I'm not gluten-free, but I just like the texture of it. So, okay, so a lot of people, you know, say, well, what am I going to do about eggs? What am I going to have for breakfast? So I eat either like a whole wheat toast or oats for breakfast most mornings. But recently, I can't believe it took me this long. I tried, because I kept seeing it in all these recipe books. This is the tofu scramble. So and it was so easy to make. So I just get the firm tofu and you just crumble it up. And you just throw in some turmeric, which is what makes it yellow. And turmeric is so good for us. It's anti-inflammatory. It's been used as medicine for thousands of years in the East. It's just fantastic. Turmeric, I use it in all my stews and cooking. And so it turns the tofu this nice yellow color, and lots of black pepper. And that's just mushrooms and spinach on some whole wheat toast with a little dollop of guac and some hot sauce. And that was a delicious breakfast. If you like savory in the mornings, it took 5 minutes to make. And that's a really fantastic start to the day. I mean, generally I go for more carb heavy breakfast, because that's fuel that our body and our brain need is carbs. And I usually go to the gym first thing in the morning. And then I have my protein after I work out for muscle recovery, because that's what we need protein for. But for fuel, for energy, I eat generally like more carbs in the morning. And then this is my, there's the smoky black beans with the liquid smoke and lots of onions and garlic. And that's just some steamed kale with soy sauce and ginger and garlic and sesame seeds. And it's all so easy to make. I mean, I'm a very lazy cook, really. I don't like making things that take hours to make. Everything I make is I just kind of throw it together and I kind of improvise, and I'll kind of start with a recipe and then just kind of add my own stuff. But all of this food is just very easy to make and filling. That's the other thing, is it's very high in fiber. I mean, I like to eat, and I can eat a lot, but this stuff is filling, especially like the beans and the greens. It'll really keep you full for a long time, which helps with the kind of the snacking, which is always kind of my problem. But this food will fill you up and keep you going all day. All right, so this is just a few of the cookbooks and websites. So Forks Over Knives is a really great one. Pinterest is my favorite website because, like I said, you can just type in whatever you feel like cooking, whatever you have in your pantry. Let's say you have, oh my God, I've got zucchini that's going bad. I'm going to type in vegan zucchini recipes, and the thousands of them just pop up and go, oh, I like the look of this one. And it's just a great resource. But this is the the plant-based Woman Warrior Cookbook, which I got signed by Jane because I went to her Plant City book signing event. Have any of you been to Plant City in Rhode Island? Oh, this is, if it's a nice day and you're bored and you want a little destination, there's a place in Rhode Island called Plant City. It is, it's just a building with a couple of restaurants in it. Everything is completely plant-based. They have two really nice restaurants upstairs, Italian and Mexican, and a nice bar. You know, they have pizzas and pasta and all that, nachos, burritos. And downstairs is a little burger bar and a sushi bar. I think it's a sushi bar in the evening, and a cafe. And it's just a really beautifully run place. And they also have speakers there and cooking demonstrations and all sorts of different events. So Jane Esselstyn did a talk there, a book launch. So I met her, and I was so excited to meet her. I was like a kid in a candy store. Anyway, so she's great. The Plant Pure Nation cookbook. That's also a documentary, Plant Pure Nation. And that is a project that was started by the son of Colin Campbell, who wrote the China study. So his son started this kind of national movement. He's kind of encouraging plant-based pods, he calls them, to pop up all over the country. So our Green Nosh on the Cape, we have a pod here on the Cape, which is a plant-based group. You know, we meet once a month, we do potlucks, everyone brings food, it's amazing food. We meet in different places. Sometimes we go watch a movie together, sometimes we have speakers. So we are one of the officially recognized plant-based pods that came from this Plant Pure Nation kind of project. And his wife, so it's the daughter-in-law of Colin Campbell, Kim, she's a fantastic cook, and all her recipes are really simple and easy to follow. And I made this chocolate pumpkin pie. I can't remember if I brought one to one of my talks, but anyway, it's so easy. The only ingredients of the filling are cocoa powder and and some melted like dark chocolate and pureed pumpkin. And then the crust is just nuts and dates and some vanilla essence. Anyway, it's so easy to make and it's so delicious. So her recipes are great. I mean, look at this, look at these brownies. So you can make brownies with, that would be a good one to make with kids as well. Black bean brownies or sweet potato brownies. And they just give it this beautiful, like velvety texture. You would never know that it's black beans or sweet potato or anything. So there's just so many creative ways to use things that are healthy and good for you and full of fiber and nutrients, but it will kind of taste like just a healthier version of what you already know. So that's a good one. Oh, and then Rick Esselstyn, who pops up in the documentaries, he's got a little cookbook as well. So you'll see all these names popping up if you watch the documentaries. The Esselstyn family, the Campbell family, they're kind of the godfathers of this whole movement, but they're just all really wonderful people. And then the How Not to Die author, Dr. Greger, he also has cookbooks. So he has the cookbook that goes with that book, cauliflower mash, bean cuisine, black bean burgers, lentil soup, edamame, guacamole. So there's the breakfast recipes, little balls, like energy balls, little superfood breakfast bites. So just tons of great cookbooks out there. He also wrote a book called How Not to Diet, because one of the other nice kind of bonus perks of eating this way is that you really don't have to worry about calories so much, because the food is so fiber rich, you can't really overeat. I mean, you need to be a little bit careful about things like nuts, which are kind of my weakness. So, you can definitely pack on the calories if you eat too many nuts. That's the only thing you need to really watch about. But if you're just eating beans and greens and grains and fruit and veg, that's all, the more the merrier. Okay, so that's some ideas if you want to look up some recipes. This is just kind of the salads that I eat every day. So I, instead of oil and vinegar dressing, I just use balsamic vinegar. Like I use this balsamic glaze, and I just don't miss the oil at all. So like on the left, I've got, arugula and red onion and yellow, orange peppers and some pear, just whatever I have lying around. I kind of just throw whatever I have on my salads. Chickpeas. This is some pickled cabbage, banana peppers, artichokes, carrots. So just, variety is key. So every day I make sure I have a big salad just loaded with, yes.
Is the goal to eat more vegetables, or steam them, or cook them with what is the goal?
I mean, it's definitely not, it's definitely not a raw. I mean, some people like to eat a lot of raw food. I like to eat warm food in the winter. I mean, most foods, you can really get technical about which foods lose nutritional value if you cook them a certain way. Generally, things like this, like the lentils in the pot, I don't think that's taking away any of the nutritional value if you cook up, lentils and mushrooms and stuff. But some greens, I think it's better to steam them than like cook them for hours and hours. But I don't get bogged down in like too much of that technicality. I just feel like as long as I'm eating all, tons of vegetables and all the fiber and everything, I think it's all good. But I like to eat a lot of vegetables raw. Like I like raw cauliflower and I like the crunch of it, and I actually prefer peppers raw than cooked as well. So it's kind of just personal preference. But I think as long as you're eating variety, that's the most important. Yes.
I just want to say a couple of things. I was in back with, a lot of cardiovascular disease, and the thing is, Dean Ornish, who's a cardiologist.
Oh, Dean Ornish. Yes. Yeah.
Way long.
Yeah.
But I would just say, if you buy frozen vegetables, they don't not as processed, because when you buy them in the supermarket, they lose their nutrient value very quickly, just sitting on the shelf.
Okay.
By frozen, you just cook them, don't cook them out, just cook them for a very short period of time. You'll get more nutrients than you would actually.
Right.
And what do you think about organic versus organic?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, thank you for bringing up the whole frozen food, because a lot of people say, oh, this is too expensive, buying all this fresh produce all the time. Frozen food is frozen veggies and frozen berries, great. It's just as good as, obviously the texture of a frozen blueberry is going to be different from a fresh one, but nutritionally just as good for you. And in terms of organic, Dr. Greger goes into it. So if you can afford to buy organic, great. If you're really on a budget and you don't want to pay the extra for the organic, it's still better to eat, all the food that, just wash it and do your best with it. It's still better. Like the benefit of eating the fruit and vegetable is not organic is still better than not eating it at all, so he just says, just eat vegetables, just eat, if you can afford organic, great. The way I've started to look at it, I've cut out, obviously like meat and fish and dairy. I actually also gave up alcohol 6 years ago. So I figure that, the money that I'm not spending on and cheese is so expensive, and meat and fish, I would rather pay the 50 cents extra every now and then on organic if it's available to me, so yes.
Organic versus non-organic, you could do is you take it to the sink, you really wash it well. You can wash off the pesticides.
Right.
There's certain fruits, vegetables that have a huge amount of chemicals.
Right.
Carrots, blueberries, strawberries, those sorts of things.
There's something called isn't that the Dirty Dozen or something? There's a list that comes out every year of the foods that should really try to buy organic, where you're eating the skin, You know, bananas, it's not so important because you're taking the peel off, you know, so look up Dirty Dozen. I think they tweak it every year. But there are certain foods, if you can afford to buy organic, it's definitely preferable. But it's still beneficial, you know, the overriding benefit of eating the fruit or vegetable is still better than like the risk of the pesticide, especially if you're washing it. So organic when possible. And, you know, it's so nice if you can to support the local farmers markets. You know, we have a great farmers market in Osterville in the summer. There's Falmouth and Sandwich that they've started popping up all over the place. And I think it's really great if we can support our local farmers. Obviously it is a little pricier, but you know, whatever, you know, it's all about priorities really at the end of the day. You know, if that's a priority to you to eat like fresh organic food, I think that's fabulous. This is let me think. I think this is like a squash coconut curry. So I think I added some red curry paste. I think that is farro, which is an ancient grain. And then I made, I always start my stews with, you know, onions and garlic and ginger, and then sauteed or, you know, cooked up the squash. And then I added some coconut milk and red curry paste, and it was very tasty, very easy to make. Just throw it all in a pot. What is this? That's just hummus on toast. And this was actually when I went to a friend's house who was trying to eat better, and she made me this nice salad with strawberries. And there's certain foods that are really like superstars in terms of like cancer fighting, and strawberries are one of them. I think it's strawberries, cranberries, lemon, and red apples. Red delicious. Anyway, you can Google all of this, but again, it's not really so much about like the superfoods. And, you know, of course, we all know that berries are good for us and kale and all those things. It's really more about the variety and just the harmony of all these things working together. And Colin Campbell talks about this, I think, in Forks Over Knives. He just talks about, you know, he has this very holistic view with a W. So he wrote this incredible book called Whole. This is enough. You need to read the China study first and then read this. So here he kind of talks about just looking at human health, like as a whole, like functioning, like the human body as such a miraculous thing working, like a symphony, like everything working together, you know, and like how since, you know, like the days of the ancient Greeks or whatever, when they looked at everything like science and philosophy and everything under one umbrella, how we've become so specialized in the modern world, where you go to your cardiologist, you go to your, you know, this for all the different functions of every different organ in your body. And he is really all about just seeing everything working together in harmony. And he just, I don't know, he writes so well in this book. So this was really mind-blowing as well. And it just all makes sense to me. You know, I'm just so in love with the whole concept of it, because it really benefits you across the board. You know, it's not just like you're eating one way to prevent heart disease. You're eating one way, you know, for your, you know, mental clarity. Like eating this way benefits you across the board. I mean, people always ask me, you know, how much better I feel. I mean, I do. I feel great. I have tons of energy. I sleep well. Everything's great. I mean, I felt pretty good before because I was eating quite well. But I think a lot of people who go from a really poor diet to eating this way see incredible benefits, especially in your blood work. I mean, you'll see your cholesterol, blood pressure, everything will improve. You'll come off medications. I mean, they go into this in the documentaries. There's one documentary, I think it's the sequel to Plant Pure Nation. It's called From Food to Freedom. And they take like 12 type 2 diabetes patients, and they put them on this immersion program just for, I think it's less than 2 weeks. All but one of them comes off their medication in 2 weeks. I mean, it's so, I get goosebumps. It's so powerful. If you really do this 100%, you need to see your doctor before you do this, because you will need to have your medications adjusted. Your blood chemistry can change so quickly if you feed your body the right way. You know, if you take out all the processed foods and all the additives and all the things that are harming your body, it can really work miracles. I mean, I had a lady here at one of my last talks who had really bad rheumatoid arthritis, It's like night and day. She went vegan and she said, I feel like I'm a teenager again. Like all her aches went away. I mean, it's amazing. And it's not just anecdotal. I mean, there's just thousands and thousands of stories like this. So it's a really powerful thing. And my favorite thing about it is that you feel like you've really taken your health into your own hands. You know, you have personal responsibility for your own health just from what you're putting into your body every day. You know, it's not, no one's making money from this. I mean, okay, they're writing books, but you know, there's no product being sold. There's no supplement you have to take. You know, it's literally just eating unprocessed, healthy, beautiful, natural foods, and it can make just a massive beneficial impact on your life. I mean, it's really incredible, and especially after my experience a couple of years ago, I want to do everything that's in my power to make sure I never have to go to doctors and specialists and hospitals ever again. And a lot of the people in these documentaries, like the Esselstyns and the Campbells of the world, they're in their 90s, you know, and they're doing great. They're active, you know, and has anyone seen the Netflix series, the Blue Zone series? I think it's called Live to 100. That's another really good one to watch. So there are these places in the world called blue zones. There's one in Costa Rica, Japan, I think Italy somewhere. There's one in America. It's on the West Coast. It's a Seventh-day Adventist. They're all vegetarian. So this chap, Dan Butner, I think his name is, he has discovered these zones where people regularly live past 100 and they're still mentally active and physically active. So he's done a lot of research into their lifestyles. And they are predominantly plant-based. They don't eat a lot. I mean, they might eat a tiny bit of meat here and there, but they're mostly plant-based, but also physically active, mentally active. They have the social networks, the community. So it's not just the food, but the food is a huge part of it. So that's a really interesting series. And then there was also another series that just came out, You Are What You Eat. Did you see that? And that took twins and put them on a regular, well, actually kind of a healthy standard diet and a vegan diet. And that was kind of, although I didn't think they spent enough time at the end on the results. They only looked at a few of the results. They didn't really go into a lot of it, but it was still interesting. So this is one of my favorite regular dishes that I have to make every other week at least because I crave it. So I love mushrooms, and mushrooms are actually in their own category. Like it's not really, it's like somewhere between a plant and an animal. I mean, they're amazing. There's another great documentary called I think it's called Fantastic Fungi. Did anyone see that? I'll write you a list of all these documentaries. But anyway, they are very, very, very healthy, great on nutritional front. So this is like a mushroom stroganoff, I call it. And I think I got the original recipe from Pinterest and then I kind of tweaked it. So lots of onions and garlic and parsley and kale. And then the sauce is little vegetable stock, oat flour just to thicken it, Dijon mustard and soy sauce and nutritional yeast. And somehow it just makes this magic sauce, and it is to die for. I love this. I have to eat this every couple of weeks. I crave it. And so easy to make. And I love it. Over like whole wheat pasta, or you put it over rice or couscous. Yes. Any. I mean, I have read that any basic white button mushroom, any button mushroom is fine. But of course, now I keep getting bombarded on Instagram by these mushroom copies and all these magic, and they're all really expensive, you know. So it kind of upsets me when the food industry, the supplement industry, they're all jumping on this kind of plant-based bandwagon. Of course, they, you know, welcome to America, it's making money in capitalism, blah, it's all great. But there's a lot of people trying to kind of push all this stuff. Oh, you have to have this supplement. You have to eat these mushrooms. You don't have to do any of it. You can just eat the mushroom, you know. But I haven't tried that mushroom coffee, but it does have, you know, they do talk about all the different varieties and that lion's, is it called like a lion's mane or something? And I'm sure those are all fabulous, but and any mushroom is good. I mean, I get variety is great, you know. So sometimes I buy portobello, sometimes I buy shiitake, whatever. You can just eat all of them. whatever you like best. And that's actually what I think Dr. Greger, says when someone says, oh, what kind of XYZ should I eat? He said, whichever one you're going to eat most of. And actually, so, he talks a little bit, Dr. Greger, about, he has something called the Daily Dozen, certain foods that he does recommend you eat on a daily basis. So there's always greens are in there, like leafy greens, berries, and flaxseed are some of the 12. He also includes like hydration and exercise. But the only food that, he says, like a cup of this or a cup of that, the only food where it's actually beneficial to eat as much as possible are the leafy greens. So anything else, like if you've had your cup of berries, great. If you've had your tablespoon of flaxseed, great. Greens. I mean, those are, if we're going to have one standout food in the plant kingdom, it's leafy greens. So, kale, collard greens, I think have the highest amount of calcium. That's another thing people worry about. So here, fun fact is that we're all told since we're kids that we have to have dairy for calcium. Actually, complete myth, because dairy is so acidic that it actually leaches calcium out of our bones. The highest percentage of osteoporosis in terms of country population is in countries that consume the most dairy. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. I read this. This just comes up all the time. So calcium we get from leafy greens, mostly like broccoli, cruciferous vegetables. There are fortified plant milks that have calcium and vitamin D, whatever. But there are plenty of foods that have calcium, nuts, beans. And, I got my bone density checked a couple of years ago. It's all great. I mean, jumping up and down, jumping jacks, all good for your bone density, but you can get plenty of calcium from plants. This is like a veggie chili, added some corn and squash and some nice steam. I try to eat kale most days. It's just my favorite, but spinach is great. You can use collard greens. I actually bought them the other day, to my shame, for the first time. I just steamed them with soy sauce and garlic and ginger. Delicious. But you can use, if you buy like a whole collard green leaf, you can use it as a wrap, and it's actually good for you instead of some processed, tortilla wrap. You can use collard greens as wraps. This is just, again, like stuff I eat every day. So roasted vegetables, great. You got tons of little vegetables like poking around in your fridge. I just make a tray. I just chop up all my vegetables and I just roast them without oil. I just put some seasoning on them. I put cumin and chili and turmeric, whatever, and I just roast a whole pan of veggies. So another important part of eating this way, or helpful kind of way to stay consistent, is to meal prep, on a Sunday evening, whenever you have time. So what I do is I don't do it every week. I'll make a batch of a grain. So I'll either make brown rice, like a whole pot of brown rice, or farro, or quinoa, or whatever, something different every week. And I'll make a big pot of something legume or bean based. So either my black beans or a chili or lentils or something, so that when it's lunchtime and then maybe a tray of roasted vegetables, I just have everything in the fridge. I don't portion it out like some people make specific portions if you're going to work and you're taking it with you. But I just have big tubs of stuff in my fridge, and I will just have, the farro and the beans, and then I'll throw some kale on and some roasted vegetables. And it's just easy to make yourself a healthy meal when you have all the kind of the building blocks you need ready to go. And my husband goes to work, I send him in with farro and beans, and this is like a chimichurri, which I buy at Trader Joe's, like a spicy herb kind of condiment. So yeah, it's helpful to meal prep if you have time. It saves you time during the week. So sweet potatoes. So when I grew up in England, and we used to have, it was very normal in England to have a baked potato as your kind of main meal, with different toppings. So, you could put chicken or whatever we used to put on it. But to me, a potato is not necessarily a side. It's like, that's like often the basis of my whole meal. So sweet potatoes are actually great for you, especially the skin. A lot of the nutrients are in the skin. So just scrub it before you roast it. And I happen to love sweet potatoes. The rest of my family does not. So I just make regular potatoes for them. And I have a sweet potato. And then you can put salsa on it, beans, a vegan sour cream or a yogurt or something, vegetables, guacamole, whatever. So, I mean, to me, that's a filling meal, super easy to make. This is asparagus and like roasted tomatoes and farro and broccoli. There's some kind of sauce on there. Yeah, so this is kind of, so on the right is I make my own granola. I just pour oats onto a baking tray, and then I throw in some nuts and seeds, like chia seeds and pumpkin seeds. You can throw dried fruit in there, like cranberries, raisins, whatever you want. And I just, and some maple syrup or date syrup, just to kind of clump it together instead of, I used to use coconut oil and I've tried to cut that out. So I just use date syrup, and that is a plant-based yogurt with some date syrup. And then you can also throw fresh fruit on there, and that's a great breakfast. Edamame is one of my favorite legumes, and soy. There was a lot of noise about soy in the last years, about the estrogen and stuff. And I think honestly, that was probably paid for by the dairy industry, because soy is actually very, very, very good for you, especially for women, because it's a different kind of estrogen. It actually blocks the kind of cancer that feeds on estrogen, and that soy is actually really beneficial, especially for women. So don't be scared of soy. And edamame, obviously, like a whole bean, is great for fiber and all the other nutrients in there. So I eat edamame almost every day. And that is with I make a peanut dressing. And if you're trying to cut back on calories, instead of using peanut butter, so usually I used to make a peanut butter dressing with soy sauce and lime juice and ginger and garlic. And I also use that as a dipping sauce for these Vietnamese rolls that I make. But now I found this powdered peanut butter. It's like a probiotic. It's just the powder, so it's dry, so it doesn't have the fat of the oil of the peanut. And I just use that in my dressing with the soy sauce. So it's kind of just a slightly lighter, but I love the flavor in Asian dishes of the peanut dressing. Yes.
You mentioned probiotic.
Yes.
What about fermented foods?
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. So good for your gut biome. Yeah, so fermented foods are excellent. So whether it's, I mean, the plant-based yogurt all has probiotics in it. Pickled cabbage, fermented foods. I mean, I don't like kimchi, but that's really good for you. Sauerkraut is really good for you. So yeah, fermented foods are really important for your gut.
Place of, yogurt in.
Well, I mean, you can buy the plant-based yogurt, but yeah, sauerkraut and all that stuff is very, very, very good for you. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so this is kind of my favorite dessert is dates stuffed with a little almond butter, and those are little vegan chocolate chips. And you can sprinkle, I mean, you can put whatever you want in them, but sometimes I sprinkle a little orange rind on, or some coconut, or dates are fantastic. They're my favorite new treat. So potato salad I make with a plant-based yogurt instead of mayonnaise, and capers and lots of herbs and vinegar. And, I take this to parties and everyone eats it. I mean, no one cares that it doesn't have mayonnaise. I never used to like mayonnaise really anyway, but this tastes delicious, and it's all wholesome and good for you. Okay, so here are my trays of veggies that I roast every week. And you can roast, yeah, whatever you want. I love fennel. Does anyone here eat fennel? It's got a really delicious, like an aniseedy flavor to it. You can get it at Trader Joe's. It's much cheaper there than, and if for some reason it's really expensive if you buy just a single bulb at Stop and Shop, but Trader Joe's have them in like little 2-packs. And they've got a really distinctive, kind of aniseedy flavor. And they become quite sweet when you roast them. They're also really nice raw. You can slice them. I just saw someone make like a pink grapefruit salad with fennel and mint and lemon juice. It looked delicious. More of a summer food, but really yummy. Those are chickpeas. So yeah, I just I just drain a couple of cans of chickpeas, and I just put cumin and chili powder and turmeric. And that's actually a good snack. Like, instead of eating like peanuts or something, you roast those in the oven and they get kind of crunchy. So you can just eat them on their own as a little snack, or you can put them on a salad or a bowl or anything. Lots of fruit. Don't be scared of the sugar in fruit. It's all good for you. This is, oh my gosh, so my daughter's at college in Montreal, and we went to this plant-based sushi restaurant called Bloom. It is amazing. This is all completely plant-based. There's beets in there and carrots, and I mean, it was like work of art. It was phenomenal. So yeah, find a sushi restaurant. I go to Saga Fusion in Marston's Mills. They have a sweet potato roll and they have a peanut avocado roll. The miso soup is all vegan. They have a nice salad with a ginger miso dressing. They have edamame. So that's kind of a place I will go where I know I can eat the food. So this is at the Bangkok Kitchen. So again, you know, instead of getting, you know, a chicken dish, you know, just try tofu. This is steamed tofu. So it's a little slightly gelatinous. I mean, most people prefer the fried tofu, but when I'm being good, I get the steamed tofu. And you know, lots of nice veggies. This was a Vietnamese food is great. Always lots of good vegan options. Oh, so this is the I make these spring rolls with a rice wrapper, and I just stuff them full of tofu and vegetables, and then that is my peanut butter dipping sauce with date syrup and soy and lime and garlic and ginger. And this is a crowd pleaser. Whenever I go to a party and I bring this, it disappears so quickly, and it's all about the dipping sauce. And people don't even know that they're eating tofu. No one cares. It's all just about the sauce. I think that is it. So what I wanted to show you, is everyone good for time or do we need to leave? I just wanted to show you the Esselstyn ladies doing one of their cooking demonstrations, because it's very inspiring. I mean, if you need some help cooking, getting ideas. What is this? Why can't I get into YouTube? Let me see. Jane Esselstyn, YouTube. Here she is. Oh, how to eat greens 6 times a day. Let's see.
Mashed potato lovers, your day has come. Indulge in the rich, creamy,
Don't
classic
look.
Bob Evans mashed
Don't look.
potatoes. Farm fresh potatoes blended with peeled milk and butter for that homemade taste.
No.
Bob Evans is known for. Bring home the warm comfort of mashed potatoes today.
Okay, how do I make this full screen? I don't know how to make this full screen. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Jane Esselstyn. I'm Anne Esselstyn, and today we're talking about greens. My dad always talks about eating your greens every day. I'll get a close up of this picture for the camera. 6 times a day, for those with heart disease, the size of a fist. So everyone asks, well, how much? What does he mean? Does he mean cooked greens or raw greens? And some of the greens he's talking about are the following. I'm going to read them from his t-shirt. This is my dad's t-shirt. Bok choy, Swiss chard, kale, collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, beet greens. I mixed those up, sorry. Napa cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, cilantro, parsley, spinach, arugula, and asparagus. So, that's all right. We don't have asparagus because we ate it last night.
That's so cute.
So shopping list. So to start, breakfast. How do you eat greens at breakfast? How about we hope everybody's eating oats for breakfast? You can put greens into your oats easily. I want to quickly show you my favorite breakfast, which is here. I'm just putting out right now into, can you see this? I'm putting this into my bowl. These are my grains. I mean, this is my oats. And in here, I have put this handful of greens like this. And I chop these greens with my trusty little knife. And I just chop it up in the sort of bite-sized pieces. And this ends up, if you're actually measuring it, to be about 2 cups. But I put this, and this is a big fistful, into my oats. And we cook these cheesy oats. But you can do, I mean, any way you choose. But that makes it so quick and so easy, so delicious. And you don't even know that you're getting all these good greens. So fill your breakfast bowls with greens. So that's breakfast. And then the mid-morning snack. What kind of greens do you want to snack on mid-morning? I thought, what was kind of a cool thing to consider, and what we often do have, are beets. And of course, when we went to the store last night, they didn't have the purple beets, so they had golden beets.
And they didn't have good beet greens, kind of looking dead, but you know what? They taste just fine, even when they look limp, so
we
we
always
always get
love-
turned off.
We always buy them with greens because beet greens are the best. I cooked them last night. I rinsed them off. I tasted them. They are, to me, beet greens are oddly salty. I think all the sweet gets put into the beet and everything else kind of goes up into the green. And they're a little bit of a, when celery's kind of salty, beet greens have this savory, salty flavor. So these are, all this right here was all that right there.
And they
And what's so
cook
fun is
down.
as you boil
Cook
the,
down.
the chickens on your beets, peel them. We already have a video about this, but we love
It's like
it.
sort of taking the skin off a giant fat snake.
Oh,
The beet shaped snake. It is like a big peel, and then you can just cut the little stump off on the end. If it gets caught, you can also peel it, but these are then ready to go. So I think a midday slice or two of beets, just like this, is great, and you can put on your mustard, you can put vinegar.
I also recommend, this is a thought, but it's not always convenient, is that while you're cooking your cereal, cook a whole lot of any kind of green. And you know those wide mouth thermos jars, just fill it with the greens. And then you have those greens for whenever you need them throughout the day. And they're still a little warm. You can put a little vinegar on them.
So, but just the size of all those greens shrinking down to just that little plate of greens, I want to show you here. People ask about handful raw versus handful cooked. And one of our favorite plant-based eaters, John Stewart, had a great video about eating his greens for nutritional needs. We love to do that. I'm not sure what greens he was eating, but I think they were cooked. So I'm going to show you now. This is spinach. This is organic spinach, and this is 10 ounces. And one handful of this would be, you know, maybe this much. And so, okay, let's just look at that. This thing is still almost full with a handful of spinach. Actually, I'd be more generous. This much spinach. I'm going to cook this right now while we're talking about the other greens. And as you know, spinach cooks down to almost nothing. So we'll be able to compare that in a second.
I have strong feelings that you need the variety of the greens. Don't get stuck with spinach. Because spinach, they all sort of are like a symphony, and they all move into helping you in all sorts of good ways. So I tend to focus on kale, but I get all of the different greens in and a lot of arugula. Arugula is really a powerful green.
We're so excited to tell you about this cool thing we're doing called Cook with Chibo.
It's a new concept in culinary education.
anyway, you get the idea.
Kind of class that you
In
register.
real time.
Well, you register for it, and when you register for the online streaming of it, you get a grocery list, and then we all.
Anyway, so these two, they're just very, very inspiring, but there are, there are hundreds of really great plant-based cooks and influencers if you're on Instagram. And I'm always saving recipes, and I have a whole collection of recipes, but it never gets boring. There's always new ideas, there's tons of variety. And the best thing is that you just feel so good when you eat this way. I mean, you just mentally and physically, because you just know that everything you're putting in your body is actually helping your health rather than harming it. And I don't know, I just find it very powerful. I find the more I read, the more I learn. It just kind of really consolidates this belief that this is really the best way of eating and living, because it's all about exercise and sleep and all those other things. But you'll have more energy, you'll sleep better. It will really just help you across the board. So I hope that this has inspired you a little bit, and that you will come again in 2 weeks. Yes.
Just gonna say one thing on turmeric. Turmeric is such a miracle product. But
Yes.
it doesn't work unless you use Cajun
Pepper. Yeah.
and cumin. If you
Yep.
don't mix it together, you don't get the effect.
I didn't know that you had to mix cumin and I thought it was just a,
I get organic turmeric that has pepper in it.
okay,
Right,
okay.
you know, I love
Yeah,
it.
that is also a great point. So turmeric is like activated by black pepper. It's something like 1,000-fold, you know, makes it more bioavailable, I think is the word. So yeah, whenever you use turmeric, I mean, I tend to use turmeric and black pepper in most of my stews, but yes, it always add some black pepper. Yeah.
I just want to say one other thing.
Yes.
Avocado, probably, I did a study on avocado. Avocado, if you go online, look at avocado, look at all the things that it does, it's really absolutely sharp. And again, it has fat, in it, it's good fat.
Yeah.
It's good and bad fat.
Yeah.
It's a great food to add to your diet.
Yes. Well, and you know, Mexican food, that's another kind of ethnic food that I love because they eat so much like beans and rice and guacamole and salsa. That is all excellent. I mean, that's all packed with nutrients and it's wonderful. And it's kind of, you know, everyday people food. It's not, you know, they say a lot of the, what they call the SAD diet, the standard American diet. It's like the diet of affluence. Like we're all eating way too much rich food every day. And if you look at the, you know, like the rustic populations that were studied in China, I mean, they can't afford to eat meat and to all these things every day. They maybe have a little piece of meat on a Sunday. They're eating primarily plant-based food and their health is so much better for it. You know, there's hardly any, like in Japan, there's hardly any breast cancer in Japan because they've got it down to green tea, mushrooms, and soy, tofu. There's hardly any breast cancer in Japan, and it's all to do with diet. Really, I mean, you know, environmental factors, yes, but food can, the food we choose to put in our bodies can fight so many diseases that even if you have a gene for something, the food you eat can stop that gene from, can stop that disease from developing. It's really powerful. So, yeah. Well, thank you for coming, everybody, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks.